it up here.
Wow, thanks for coming, everybody. It's unbelievable. I see some familiar faces. I forget everybody's names. But we've been doing these symposiums up in Philadelphia in the summertime, and somebody came up with the idea of doing it down here, which whoever that person was, Johanna really hates that person. Now she has to do this twice a year. A lot happened in 2019. I'm going to cover that. I'm going to cover our plans for 2020. But one of the big things that happened in 2019 was we kind of did this whole rebranding exercise, and you may have seen these characters that have come up onto our website and things like that. So it's been a lot of fun. It really tried to reinforces this concept of the art of technology and how, like, what we do is technology. And the thing I hate most is if people say, oh, yeah, it's just a registration system. Any registration system will do. And it's not true. Software is an art. Our technology team, our software developers are true artists. What they've created is unique, it's special, it has love and care in every moment of it. And we felt that the art of technology reinforced that. So all these characters come from this brilliant artist that we found on the web in Brazil. And his name's Macon, and our UX team keeps feeding him ideas, and different people at the company feed him ideas. And he keeps creating these things, and sometimes I'm not quite sure where the ideas come from. Oh, hold on. So we do a Secret Santa at the office up in Moorestown. And I got this for my Secret Santa, and they said, oh, I have to use it at the symposium. Oh, and I meant to say a joke about how it's always so cold in Florida in these conference rooms and everything, and that's why I was wearing a jacket, but I forgot to say that joke. Oh well, there goes the setup. I'm going to get rid of this here, and then we'll get on to the presentation. All right. Yeah, this is 7 years. When we first started this, I remember Brian Jenkins was like, what do we do a symposium for? I hate going to conferences. Now he hates it even more. So if you haven't checked out, again, Johanna and the team did this amazing program. It almost looks like we know what we're doing. The first page here talks a little bit more about that art of technology, and I'll talk a little bit about kind of what our purpose in life is and stuff. But the first couple pages here is the agenda today. We're breaking it, basically there's 3 rooms today. So this will be the room that you have to listen to me and Brian Jenkins in, and Allison and Johanna. And then we'll break from here, and it'll be 1, 2, and 3, basically. So 1, 2, 3. And then we'll come back in here for lunch and stuff like that. We'll come back in here for the close of the day. And then tonight we'll be outside, back around the pool and the beach and stuff like that. We'll have an open reception, and so hang out. Don't be shy. Go up to people, say hi. There's an inordinate amount of talent, experience, scars on backs. Ask Raul how to do event transfers, I heard. I just heard that story. There's great stories to be had and shared and learned. And then tomorrow morning, you have to come to the suite run. So we have this race day suite. So we have a whole bunch of products to help on race day, right? And so we said, what do we call that? We call it a suite. And so Shelley has put together true meaning to the word suite. Along with the new branding, we have all these colors and everything. So RunSignup is pink, GiveSignup is purple, and Race Day Suite is green. So she's got green donuts for the morning run tomorrow. And then tomorrow is really, we try to make these things educational. We try to have it so people can learn what's going on, take ideas back that they can implement and make their events better and better. Tomorrow we dig deeper into education. There's a lot of tracks, a lot of options and stuff like that. And then at the end of the day, we'll do a little reception. I do want to say special thanks to Shelley and to Johanna, who really led putting this all together. So how about a round of applause for them? And then you'll see them, and a number of you have come up to me and have told me, and I just want you to know, like, it's amazing. I've got the best job in the whole wide world. The people at this company are just amazing. They have passion, they have intellect, they've got drive, they've got commitment, they've got talent. It's really incredible. So thank you to everybody at RunSignup. So it turns out we're 10 years old. I'm going to tell a quick version of the origin story. So 2009, actually I started having this idea back in 2007. I had the delusion that I'd be able to code it. And I never wound up having the time. 2009, I met this brilliant young man, Steven Sigwart. And if there's one reason why all of us are in this room, it's because of that young man. So I met him while he was still in college. We put together a little beta version, put it out during the summer of 2009, and somehow 20 races found it, used it, and it didn't break. And so Steven is pretty sharp. He's graduating a semester early, so I go to him at Thanksgiving and I say, hey, would you join RunSignup? Because we have this big megalopolis company. It's just an idea. And he said, sure. He didn't have anything else going on. And so January of 2010 is when RunSignup officially started. We would meet and diligently work every Monday in my dining room. So that's the origin story. So we are 10 years old. Happy birthday to us. You know, one of the things that Steve and I talked about early is that registration will probably take us a year, maybe two, to do this. And we are no closer to the finish line now. Like, you think we have a lot of stuff, you know, but I mean, we're no closer to the finish line. So this is my belief of what our company is kind of based upon. And it's kind of these core principles, if you will, that kind of guide us. So the one on the left is my belief of what gets us, each of us in this room, up in the morning. It's to work hard, and it's to learn, and it's to have fun. Doing that within the context of a team makes it more meaningful. So that's just why we wake up in the morning. And so a very, central guiding principle is that we want the employees and the customers of RunSignup to have this experience when they wake up in the morning. The second one is this virtuous cycle that happens of people taking responsibility and me trusting in that responsibility winds it being very efficient. So I didn't fly down here until 3 o'clock yesterday. I trusted that Johanna would make this magical thing come together. And so she didn't have to put up with me bothering her. I didn't have to really, keep bothering her to ask for updates because I trust her. And that produces this great efficiency. And so we're about 45 people, and it's amazing what we get done, and I think that that's really a core reason. So, and it's tougher as we get bigger to have that trust, even though we have very remote people and things like that, but I think we do a pretty good job of that, and I think that part of that also is this trust with you all, our customers as well. So you hopefully think that we're good stewards of your technology roadmap. We try to listen to your input, we try to sort through all that and prioritize and do our best in getting stuff done. And then the final one is this idea of employees, customers, and owners. Actually, it's starting to become a popular topic in the business press about capitalism, and too much has been biased towards owners and stockholders and things like that, and how it kind of perverts what's actually happening. So people get too focused on quarterly results and things like that, and not enough on kind of the long-term strategy, and also not enough to keep a balance. So a number of years ago, I wrote this blog called The Three-Legged Stool, and these are the three legs. And if one of those legs is getting shorted, like if we're trying to short our customers and trying to overcharge you or try to not deliver good service or not deliver good technology, then that stool's going to topple over, right? You're going to fall off that stool. Likewise, if you screw your employees, the employees aren't going to stick around. The employees aren't going to be working night and day to put on a thing like this. That whole thing has to happen. And so 2 years ago, we transferred from a single person LLC to an S Corp. And so all of our people in our company now have options or shares in the company. So we are truly an employee-owned company. I still control it, but I'm nice, but I'm not that nice. Okay, so here's our strategy, and there's a new slide this year. I used to have this slide about how we had this strategy of, if you looked at a race, it was actually made up of all these different micro communities. You know, like the race director, the nonprofit it was supporting, the timer, the running store, the sponsors, etc., the volunteers, and how we were trying to create a system that brought all these things together. So I changed it up this year to really try to crisp it up a little bit. So what do? It's the art of technology. So we build technology. We are software people, and then we offer service to try to help you use that software, try to provide education. Who do we do it for? Well, we started out just in endurance, and you remember our old tagline, for runners, by runners. But our platform turns out that, like, we did a survey, like 95% of races are actually connected to a nonprofit in some sort of way. And these nonprofits started asking for more and more of our technology. So we've expanded that to nonprofit, hence the GiveSignup stuff. How do we do it? Well, we try to make solutions to problems. So tangible solutions to problems. So every day you all are talking to us and you're saying, geez, I wish I could do this. And we actually log every one of those suggestions, and that's why I know that we're never going to finish our software, but we create real solutions that are tangible that try to solve problems. All of that is built on a single system. All of that is coming into an all-in-one database. What that does is it helps, like the old slide of this interaction between all these different micro-communities and so forth. And then finally, it's about openness. So, you know, we just try to behave in a very open manner so that we're accountable, and it kind of puts pressure on us to make sure we live up to what we're talking about. And then, how do we help our customers? Well, we're trying to help you raise more money. We're trying to help you get more people to your races. We're trying to do that. And we're trying to save you some time in doing all that. So if we can cut a few hours out of your day, so many races are backed by volunteers, or, you know, they're trying to expand their races and they just don't have enough time in the day. So if we can bring technology to take away some of that time and make it more efficient, that's great. And then we try to make it easy. So that's our strategy. This is another new slide here. So that idea of best-in-class solutions. So if you look at the little puzzle pieces around the edge, these are the types of people who are using our system. So it's for participants in races, ticket holders, donors, fundraisers, sponsors, volunteers, members. And we actually have a solution for each one of those things. And we're trying to make those solutions as good as possible. And all that stuff kind of comes together, because if you look at that, we've come up with this new term of supporter, and we're still debating whether it's supporter or constituent. Eric likes constituent. I like supporter, so we're going to arm wrestle, and the first round I won, as you can see, because it got up on this slide. But that's kind of how we view things. And then this is the product portfolio, you know, so RunSignup registration, GiveSignup for nonprofit tickets, GiveSignup donation websites, GiveSignup fundraising, race day, event day, suite, membership sponsor, volunteers and sponsors, and then viral social marketing, all bundled into this embedded CRM and financials. Because fundamentally what we do is we move money. And so we've got this beautiful technical architecture that keeps improving and stuff. This week is amazing and fun because I'm with you. Last week was, I will admit, it's a little bit funner. I was with the development team basically all week, and we were talking about architecture and plans for what we're developing this coming year. And there was less people, and I had to remember less names. But the architecture we have for putting this all together is really amazing and cool, and allows us to scale very easily. Kind of the other foundational part of us is this openness idea. And one of the ways you can see that is transparent pricing. So things have been going really well for us. 2019 was a kick-ass year. There's a lot of numbers up here. We grew almost 1.2 million registrations last year. That's a lot. It's a whole lot. We've gotten to a point now where we're just, and these numbers I actually had snapshotted before the end of the year. We actually wound up the year a little bit over $270 million were processed through our system last year. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of validation for us. Like, this is kind of like our scorecard. So are people liking what we're building? Are they finding it useful? Is it going well? And to see this kind of adoption in the running industry, which is basically kind of flat, and Allison and Johanna will talk about that later, but to see the adoption and growth that we've had, it's pretty fulfilling. One of the interesting things here is you'll see the registrations is up 23%, transactions is up 27%, the total dollar process, and that's because we continue to do more and more on the donation GiveSignup side, and that you'll probably see accelerate over the coming 5 years or so. I attended this talk by Thomas Friedman, who wrote this book about how technology is outpacing the human ability to adapt to change, right? And so we pay a lot of attention to education. So while we spend a lot of money on software development, we also spend a lot of money on things like this. So like, this is very costly to us, but it's like one of the core things that we can do to help educate people on how to use our technology. Because it's like the old tree falling in the woods and nobody's listening. If you build technology and nobody knows how to use it, well, did you really build technology? So we do a lot of stuff to try to put this all together. It's very multidimensional, and we're very outward faced. So we're always trying to figure out how do we connect and how do we educate in a very efficient manner. So let me talk about 2019 and what we've done in 2019. So the big kind of strategic thing we did is we announced this new brand called GiveSignup for nonprofits. So every year people sign up for races and they spend a total in the US of about $1 billion. So those $30 race entry fees, you add all those up across all the races across the US, it's about $1 billion. Every year, people give about $410 billion. So GiveSignup doesn't go after that entire addressable market. It probably goes after 30 to 50 billion, but it's a much bigger market. And you would think that, geez, with that kind of a market, there'd be good technology solutions out there. Turns out that there aren't. At least from my biased point of view. There are big companies that are not paying attention to their customers, not listening, not really being applied. There's small companies that are venture-backed that are spending more money on marketing and sales than they are on the technology front. And it's creating all these opportunities. The software is overpriced. You know, it's not uncommon for donations to have a processing fee of 8-9%. It's amazing how difficult and disjointed some of these solutions are. And our customers were asking us, you know, geez, I love you for the 5K, but I want to use you for the gala, the golf outing, the pancake breakfast. You know, love you to take donations during registration for the marathon, but how about a year-round donation website? How about a generic fundraising campaign? So it was a big effort for us last year, and I'll talk about the specifics in a little bit. Probably the most difficult project that we had all year was sales tax. So you've probably heard us talk about this, but the basic refresher is that about a year and a half ago, Supreme Court ruled in a case with Wayfair in South Carolina that marketplace companies like ourselves, are responsible for collecting and paying taxes in a state if the state says that. So what's happened is a wave of states, and currently I think it's like 37 or 38 states have passed marketplace laws that says it's our responsibility. It used to be your responsibility to collect the tax, and I bet hardly any of you did and remitted it. So basically we've done this, and here's an example case from Arizona. I took this as just a simple transaction. I think it's for like a marathon and half marathon. So you see up at the top is the overall transaction. We collected total tax of $8.24, kind of in the middle at the top. And then on the right-hand side, it's $5.43 went to Arizona. Maricopa County got 68 cents. And Surprise, the city of Surprise, got $2.13. And so we do all of that for our customers now for marketplace states. We collect the money and we remit it for you. So we remove that obligation from your plate. I think it was Eric that was telling me about how he was talking to a customer, and the customer said, this not only makes me feel a little bit safer, but it also reduces my accounting costs. And we have to do this for every transaction. You'll see we really turned this on at the beginning of December. That ID number, 275,652, that's the transaction number. So we processed over 270,000 tax transactions. We're keeping track of all that. We're making payments. We're trying to file in all the states, although Kevin put the old LLC tax ID number in some of the state registration filings, but that's a different story. He'll figure that out. I don't know how you have time to be here, Kevin. Race day scoring, another huge effort. So the team down here in Orlando, led by James Harris, has taken kind of the initial work that Stephen did with race day scoring. And last year, at this point in time, we put out 1.0. During the course of this year, we had a number of timers, and I'm looking at Jamie and I want to thank you, Jamie, for doing so much and helping us, refine and kind of fine-tune the product. So we released 2.0 in December, and basically we're taking a message to the market that the future is now. Now's the time to move to race day scoring. It's safe, it's good, it covers most race types. There's still a few that it doesn't, but it's pretty good. The second thing that we did over the past year is we brought RaceJoy to timers. So we basically put RaceJoy as part of their bag of tools that they have, along with all their chip equipment and all their scoring software and all their results and all their displays and all that kind of stuff, as something that can be used as part of their tool bag. And it was really good. Check-in app and ticket check-in app both had new versions this year. And one of the most important things that happened is we certified 380 timers. So it's this idea of leverage and education and training. So those timers can take that technology and impact tens of thousands of races with that technology. And so that's really what we're trying to do. And those timers, they're the core partners that a lot of races have. While talking about timers, we did a huge announcement in July with Chronotrack and Athlinks. So they, for years, have had a registration platform and had made investments in the registration platform. And what they've done is they've done a partnership with us so they can redirect those resources and put them into their Chronotrack Live, and Athlinks platforms. And basically what we're doing is kind of taking the best of breed and putting it together for those timers that use Chronotrack. And there's a Chronotrack conference in 2 weeks. We'll be talking more details at that conference. But a lot of the CT Live and RunSignup, all the data integration and the open APIs are flowing the data back and forth and making it easier for timers. So a big partnership and integration. It's really started to take off at the start of this year. There's a number of Chronotrack timers that are in the room that are kind of getting up to speed and learning about RunSignup and how they can use it for their customers. Thank you for coming. We really look forward to this partnership and kind of next steps after this to make things even more interesting and better. Who has their own race website separate from RunSignup? Okay, you are idiots. Yeah, so this has been an ambition of mine for a while in the team. Having a website is a little bit painful. You have to update it. There's all these security patches that come out all the time to keep it secure. You have to do all these updates and everything. And this past year, we delivered functionality that really allowed race websites to take a huge step up. So first thing we did is domains. So you bring your own domain and we will host your website for free, including an SSL certificate for free. You go to any other website hosting company for an SSL secure website, they'll charge at least $200 or $300 a year. Second thing we did is we improved and created this idea of a cover page. So RunSignup kind of has a static looking front page that by default when you create a race website. This cover page, and if you go to Matt Sinclair's presentation tomorrow morning about building a website, you'll see some great examples of cover pages. So you can use a lot more creativity and it's becoming really interesting and powerful. And You might have a web design firm that you've hired and paid lots of money to do your race website, but I'll tell you that you can do your own and have it be almost as good from a look and feel perspective. It might not be quite as good, but what you get on top of that is all the data is dynamic in the website. So it's one website where your results are there, where find a participant there, where price increases are happening automatically, where price increases, there's countdown clocks to price increases and when your race happens. All that stuff is completely dynamic. Your fundraiser, your top fundraiser list, your donation goal and whether you've achieved that or not, it's all dynamic. It's there in real time. And you don't have to spend any time updating any of that. And your customers increasingly are looking for that dynamic content. People are coming afterwards to look for their photos or looking for their results. They're coming before. And what's really interesting, I'll talk about it in a second here, is that you want to understand what's happening with those people. And with the combination of integrating race insights into our websites and into our CRM, and then also this new email capture thing that we have, really, you're going to have to explain to me why you need to have your own website, because I don't see a purpose anymore. What this tool does, it allows you to configure a pop-up to capture people who are coming to your website and they're just not ready to buy yet, right? So capture their email, and then they're part of your email contact list, and you can keep them warm and educate them about your race and hopefully bring them on as a real participant. The other thing that we did this year is we vastly improved the Run, Walk, Ride fundraising capabilities in RunSignup. So we've had those for quite a while. This is probably about the 5th generation of this that we've gone through. And it's syncing up exactly with basically CrowdRise is dying. So they got acquired about 2 or 3 years ago by GoFundMe. And GoFundMe has just shut down CrowdRise. So, some Monday morning, people that used to use CrowdRise come in and they get redirected over to a new dashboard and stuff like that. And it's creating a lot of havoc, and a lot of people don't like GoFundMe from a branding type perspective versus CrowdRise. So our business is actually benefiting from these acquisitions that happen. So yeah, it's good for us. But if you have a nonprofit oriented sort of thing, take some time, come to these presentations where we're talking a little bit about fundraising, because we've done some really, really interesting things. So Allison will talk a little bit more about the stats during the trends part, but we've done this Facebook fundraising API integration. So you can have the fundraisers have their page on RunSignup, GiveSignup, and they have a page on Facebook, and they sync dynamically, and they can search for donors wherever. Nonprofit tickets. So we've done a lot of work on this year. If you're a nonprofit and you're using something like Eventbrite, you should utilize this platform now. So in addition to be able to sell tickets really easily and simply in a user experience that's actually better than other alternatives out there, people can make donations during it as well, and they can even make recurring donations during it. Donation websites is now live, and donation forms recently went live. So I would also challenge you to say, if you're using PayPal, say, as a way to take donations or something like that, we've now got a superior alternative that will actually lower your costs. CRM, this is really interesting stuff. We did a blog last week about this. A large race opened, like a top 20-ish type of a race, and they had come off of another platform. They had used Google Analytics before to track, all their sources. So they're using CRM and Race Insights now. And so basically, for each button that they put up on their website, for each email they send out, they create a unique tracking code. And Race Insights shows all of that. And so the little pink box at the top is showing you for each one of their things, like a MailChimp email campaign 1, MailChimp email campaign 2, the hero button on their homepage versus the little button up at the top to say register. How many page views came from that? How many transaction dollars, how many signups, how many donation dollars came from each one of those things. And then what we're doing in Race Insights and CRM now is we're actually saying when somebody registers, we're actually tracking the source and putting it into the CRM. And that's what that little gray box down at the bottom says. If this person who signed up and donated $100, as you can see on the right, their referral source was from that MailChimp Audience 1. We've also introduced CRM for tickets, CRM for clubs. We've introduced custom audience exports to both Google and Facebook. Later today, Tom Novolino will be doing a great presentation about different marketing tactics. Tom is joining us. He's the CEO of about a $10 million e-commerce company. And he's going to be comparing and taking some of the ideas that they use in advanced online marketing from e-commerce into our space. I'm really excited about him in the process of joining our company because he brings this outside perspective and a whole bunch of new ideas to our space that we're looking forward to. And then we've done a ton of stuff on infrastructure. Knock on wood, we have been up since 2015, so zero downtime. And we've had like 15 upgrades to our software each year along that way. Passed the PCI audit again. It's like this terrible labyrinth you go through and you have to jump all these hurdles. It's like a Tough Mudder course, only hopefully not ending in bankruptcy. We did new infrastructure. I know everybody's excited about the new NAT servers. And then the other cool thing, this reinforces the website thing. Basically, all of our race websites are now CCPA compliant. California Consumer Privacy Act got passed and enacted on January 1st. And so basically, if you have a website, you have to comply with that. And so all of our customers comply. And the UX team has been spending a lot of time this year on accessibility. And there's a really interesting blog that Jeff Kiesel wrote about an interaction with somebody who was visually impaired utilizing our site and the lessons that we learned from all of that. So 2020. So we're going to do a bunch of stuff with GiveSignup tickets. This is going to be a major growth area for us over the coming 5 years. The first big thing that we're going to be doing is sponsor tickets. So it's a golf outing. You pay $100 to go golf, but you pay $1,000 and you get some X amount of tickets and you get to display your logo on the website and emails and things like that. So we're making that like really, really easy. We're going to simplify the wizard. And then right now the ticket thing is pretty much like one page plus a cover page. And in RunSignup Races, you have all this ability to add lots of content and to create all these pages and menus. We're going to be creating a new version of that for the ticket platform. We're also going to be working on fundraising campaigns. And this is the idea of, like we've got campaigns that are tied to Run, Walk, Ride, but this is a generic campaign. So this would enable a nonprofit to do a birthday campaign. So my birthday is different than your birthday, and each of us could run these independent little fundraising campaigns that might last for 30 days. And you get the benefit of tying that in with Facebook. And so we think that this will be really impactful and help our customers quite a bit. We got a lot of plans for CRM. So basically, 3.0 is going to be some kind of re-architecting of the data structure. That's going to make it easier to do more data merging and make it more consistent to work with data imports as well as doing filtering. By filtering, I mean the type of things you can see over here. So location and loyalty and demographics and, the analytics stuff, like what their source was. Did they come from MailChimp? Did they come from Facebook? Did they come from Google? So you can do more and more sorts of things. We'll increase the power of those filters. So we'll offer more filters and increase the power of them. And then we'll offer more promotions. And probably the biggest thing that you guys will see from an impact perspective is that we have this very powerful email marketing system that we've had for the past 5-6 years. And we send, 20 million emails a month, Andrew, something like that. It's massively used. But basically, we're going to be creating a new email marketing system from the bottom up that's tightly integrated with CRM. And I think you guys are going to like this. It'll take a while for it to mature and blossom, and you'll really see the benefit of it. But it'll be really nice over time. And that's the email 3.0. We're also finally going to do a big new membership thing. And this is also tied to the nonprofit opportunity. The fact is that running clubs, there's just not that much business, and that's why kind of clubs has always lagged behind races and stuff. But this year we're going to be doing a major upgrade of the membership system and making it more generic to work with nonprofit types of clubs, so think Rotary Club or something like that. And we're also going to be implementing a two-tier type of system. So we're working with RCA to get their requirements and things like that, such that it makes it really easy for affiliates and national organizations to work together and to have proper data authorization and billing and all that kind of stuff. And auto-renew, which will be nice. We're also going to be doing a new version of volunteers, probably towards the later half of this year. We do have a volunteer check-in app that is in code review right now. I've seen it working. I've seen it crash too, but it'll get working. And then race day. So last year we did 31 releases during the year of race day scoring. We probably intend to do about that number again this year, right, James? So we're going to continue to work on race day scoring, making it better and better, finding the features that you want. We know a bunch of stuff that we want to do. You go to the race day things and hear all about that. You'll also see an increased merge of the GPS and chip data. And we think that there are some really, really clever things that we can do that will create a great experience for timers and race directors and, most importantly, the participants and spectators. We're also going to take the RaceJoy app and make it such that you can put your RunSignup profile in it. And that'll make it easier for people to sign up and not have to remember their password and all that kind of stuff. And then Photos 2.0. So we've started leaking a little bit of stuff on the photo side already with new user experience. You'll see a bunch of stuff in the first half of this year, and Photos is going to come a long way. So it's in need of some tender, loving care. We host about 4 million photos today, but I think by the Summer Symposium, we'll have some really, really interesting stuff to talk about on the photo front. I am going to hand over now. Allison is going to come up. We put out the new RaceTrends report. And these things cost $10, so we didn't hand them out to you. They're available online, runsignup.com/trends, but you can look at them because they really are beautiful. But don't touch them. No, if you're really, really into it and you really think you'll need a hard copy, you can have one. But seriously, they are expensive, and we'd rather spend money on other things.
You also all have a copy in your bags. I feel like Oprah. It's on the little flash drive. There's a saved copy of this year's RaceTrends report.
And a beer opener.
It's a beer opener?
Yeah. It's... I'm so happy my daughter does not know what a beer opener is. Anyway, Allison, take it away.
Okay, so for this year's RaceTrends report, we mine RunSignup's data from all of our races and events. So this year's data set includes over 7.3 million participants across 52,000 different events. Just to note, for a lot of the data analysis that we do in this report, it's a cohort analysis. So we're looking at races that used RunSignup both in 2018 and 2019, and that gives us numbers that are a better reflection of the industry as a whole. Obviously, the growth that the RunSignup platform has is not necessarily something you can extrapolate to the endurance industry. So this year we added a new section to the report. It's a market overview. There was a lot of stuff that happened in the endurance industry this year, different market moves, acquisitions, IPOs, and we wanted to add this chapter to better contextualize the data and the findings that we present in our RaceTrends report. This is the reason that Johanna and I are presenting RaceTrends. We decided that the guy who called you all idiots for having your own race websites shouldn't be presenting the industry trends. Need a little bit of diplomacy on this one. So first, sales tax. We're going to keep talking about it all day. But as of the end of this month, I think 39 states will have passed marketplace facilitator laws. I don't know if you guys read the slides really carefully, but on his slide it said 35 states, which I think was from maybe 2 months ago that slide was put together. So it kind of just shows the acceleration of states that are very hungry for revenue passing these marketplace facilitator laws because it's an effective, efficient way for them to collect sales tax by making vendors responsible for collecting and remitting that on behalf of their third-party sellers. So based on the first couple of days where RunSignup did about, I forget the numbers exactly, like $400,000 in sales tax on how many registrations? Transactions?
No, I can't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact number, but basically, yeah, there's a log of that all. Stephen built a log for that. But our estimates show that RunSignup is going to remit approximately $3 million in sales tax for our customers. And because we represent around 20 to 30% of the endurance industry, we do estimate that the $1 billion endurance industry as a whole is responsible for remitting about $10 million in sales tax for the year. These numbers just kind of show the risk of noncompliance for individual races as well as non-compliant vendors. And so I think that the interesting thing about sales tax is we saw a lot of market consolidation in 2019. I think that's probably going to continue in 2020 as vendors who aren't able to build the sophisticated type of sales tax technology to collect and remit sales tax on behalf of their races, they're going to be non-compliant. Those liabilities are going to build up, and that's going to become very risky. So there were a lot of market moves that happened, acquisitions and partnerships in 2019. So the first one is Rugged Races acquired the Hot Chocolate series, which kind of shows their expansion beyond the OCR, obstacle course racing, to other types of events. Rugged is owned by Gatehouse Live, and Gatehouse Live is owned by New Media. New Media is primarily focused on newspaper companies. And in 2019, New Media acquired Gannett, which is the publisher and owner of USA Today, along with hundreds of daily newspapers and thousands of weekly newspapers. The interesting thing about that is that Rugged and Gatehouse Live, the event and endurance revenue that they bring and contribute to New Media, which now consists of New Media plus all of Gannett's assets, is really, really small. And so it'll just be interesting to see in 2020 whether that means that it will be very well funded or if it will just not get that well funded because it's never going to be, that significant of a contributor to overall net revenue between, timing and registration fees. The other thing that happened is ASICS was acquired by, reverse that. ASICS acquired RaceRoster, and so that was a really great outcome for RaceRoster's employees who are going to work for ASICS, and it's a great outcome for the investors in RaceRoster. And we think this is going to put pressure on other investor-backed registration companies to kind of find a similar outcome to RaceRoster. They're going to want those returns, but it's unlikely that there's going to be as many success stories as what RaceRoster had with ASICS.
See, it's hard to be diplomatic, isn't it?
Basically, the pressure is coming from two different things. It's the pressure to comply with sales tax, and it's the pressure to offer as much technology as what RunSignup offers at as low of a price, and that's really difficult to replicate. And so these small registration companies that can't quite keep up and have investors, they're going to get more and more pressure to produce a return like the one that RaceRoster produced for its investors. Races Online partnered with RaceRoster. We estimate that that's probably worth 200 to 300,000 registrations that have been moved off of Races Online onto RaceRoster. Another sign of consolidation. So Ryan Henry was the founder and CEO of RaceWire. Josh Drew was the head of Get Me Registered. They were acquired by the private equity-backed company Stack Sports. And both of those guys left during this year, which kind of shows a trend of companies being acquired and the heads of those companies leaving after that acquisition. The partnership between ChronoTrack and RunSignup is significant. It means more open technology, more development between the two companies and their software products, as well as the move of ChronoTrack registration over to the RunSignup platform. And then just this past week, we heard news about the potential Tough Mudder bankruptcy. This is interesting because it shows the challenge of scaling endurance events. It also shows the risk of a company financing an endurance event, like kind of like an aggregator of endurance events. And it just kind of emphasizes RunSignup's position that registration vendors and companies are not necessarily the best equipped to do the financing. It's best left to banks to do that. And it's also just kind of a sad story because there's a lot of negative downstream effects like the vendors for 2020 that aren't going to get paid the employees who might not have jobs, and all the people who got Tough Mudder tattoos. Mostly them. So I wanted to talk about two IPOs that are industry relevant. So the first is the Eventbrite IPO. So they had a hugely high aggressive valuation of $3.2 billion. It launched to a lot of success, and then it kind of went downhill very quickly. Congrats if you shorted that stock. But basically what happened is their initial valuation was really high. So it was $3.2 billion on $200 million of net revenue. Within that $200 million of net revenue when they went public, $80 million was attributed to Ticketfly. So when they went public, Eventbrite had acquired Ticketfly, and they were kind of two separate platforms. And what happened in 2019 is Eventbrite was migrating the Ticketfly customers from the Ticketfly platform over to Eventbrite. And strategically, that makes sense because why have two different platforms? It makes sense to put everything on one. But it had technical difficulties, and there was high churn with the Ticketfly customers. And so that was kind of the reason that you kept seeing the Eventbrite stock fall, and they had, some challenges in the early half of 2019. But the last 2 quarters, they've had growth and stabilization. Their valuation has adjusted to $1.7 billion, which we think is more realistic. It's around a 4.5 multiple on their revenue and about an 8 multiple on their gross profit. So the interesting thing is that there are really high valuations still in the endurance industry for registration companies. And, something like Eventbrite informs that. We don't think there's a direct correlation between the two. Eventbrite is in the ticketing space. They have international channels. They also have a growing industry. So endurance, we always say, it's flat market or slightly declining, slightly increasing. Whereas Eventbrite's market includes channels like festivals and music and concerts. So they have a much bigger market and more assets than registration companies. So we think that this valuation is much more fair, does not translate over to the endurance industry. The other IPO that happened was with Wanda. They own Ironman, the Rock and Roll series, and many other events. And the interesting thing about them is that when they went public, they had an SEC filing that gave a good insight into an aggregator of events that has succeeded. They have, achieved that economy of scale in the industry. Kind of looking at where their revenue is coming from, only about 40% is coming from the registration fees. About 25% comes from sponsorships, and they have other channels of revenue such as, the sale of merchandise, in addition to licensing fees for TV production rights. So they've achieved that economy of scale in a way that's really not easily replicated. The other interesting thing from their filing was that they project a 7.3% growth in endurance participation in North America. That's not really the same as what we are seeing in terms of growth in the industry. And their first quarterly filing showed that most of the growth that their organization was experiencing came from China and international, not from the North America channel. With timing, so we talked about the launch of Race Day Scoring 2.0. So the race director and RunScore have been the technology pillars for timing software for the last 30 years. And over the years, they've aggregated about 60% combined market share. So in 2019, Alan Jones sold RunScore, and Roger Bradshaw, who's sitting here, also announced the last major release to the race director, although it's going to continue to be supported, and Roger's also a valuable member of the Race Day Scoring team. So the cool thing about Race Day Scoring is it's combining all of Roger's experience with timing software and working with timers over the last 30 years. It's combining the industry input from all the different timers that Matt Avery and James and everyone is talking to make sure that our product is good. And it's also combining, just as Bob always brags about it, just really, really smart and talented team of developers that are building it. And so it's really cool because it's the industry's first really big production-ready release of an open scoring software platform. And yeah, the future is now, so go to certification tomorrow. In the fundraising world, RunSignup had 3 big things that happened this year. So the first was the launch of GiveSignup, which is kind of our move for the next 5 years to show that we're going to build, technology that's great and is affordable and is easy to use for nonprofits. So including that ticketing platform built for nonprofits, donation websites, and fundraising campaigns, because we want to make it easy for nonprofits to raise more and save time. The other big thing is Facebook fundraisers have been popular for a couple of years, but they have an API that they've opened up to some beta customers, and RunSignup was the first platform to launch a free integration with that Facebook fundraiser API in the industry. The third thing is just all the improvements that we've made to RunSignup's Run, Walk, Ride fundraising platform. And as Bob mentioned, all this happened at a really interesting and strategic time with CrowdRise shutting down and redirecting to GoFundMe charity. So that's caused a lot of conversation in the industry. Nonprofits that were previously using CrowdRise are kind of forced over to a platform that's built for individual crowdfunding and not for nonprofits' peer-to-peer fundraising. And so kind of us putting in the development work and the time into building out more solutions for nonprofits provides a nice solution for nonprofits that are looking for a new solution. So we're doing the RaceTrends a little bit out of order. We're going to start with fundraising because I'm already up here. The first data that we're sharing is just data on donations. So the first graph to your left is the number of donations on our platform. So you'll see that 70% of donations were less than $25. The other graph is showing the value of donations. And the interesting thing about that is that even though about 1% of donors contributed $250 or more, about 20% of the total value of donations on our platform came from that 1% of donors donating $250 or more. And so kind of the takeaway from this is if you have donations for your race, create donation levels and set them at a range, anything from the low end, like $10, to the high end, like $1,000. If you're asking for high donation amounts, I'd also recommend setting up donation notification summary emails so that you can get an automated email anytime somebody makes a big donation. That way you can reach out, thank them personally. It's a nice touch. Our second finding is that races that have fundraising enabled raise a lot more than races that only do donations. It just shows the power of peer-to-peer fundraising. So if you have a community that's engaged around a cause, a mission, a nonprofit, use fundraising. And it's not just turning on and enabling fundraising. It's making sure that you are pushing it. So using the data-driven fundraiser leaderboards on your race website, offering different incentives like fundraiser refunds, pushing out that fundraising messaging, encouraging people to share their pages through automated registration follow-up emails. So the third thing I'm going to talk about is Facebook fundraising. So this data does not look at that giant data set of 7 million participants. For this, I took a small sample of 20 races that enabled the Facebook fundraiser integration at some point during their registration and had finished registration by the end of the year. And so looking at that data set of about 7,600 fundraisers, I found that connected fundraisers on average raised $490 more than unconnected fundraisers. And they received 9.74 more donations than unconnected fundraisers. And 56% of people who had a connected fundraiser reached their goal, compared to just 25% of unconnected fundraisers. So the takeaway from this is that Facebook fundraising is the best tool that you can give to your fundraisers to raise more. I've heard a lot of nonprofits say, oh, I'm concerned because Facebook doesn't get donor data. I don't know who donated. I don't have their mailing address. It doesn't matter. What Facebook fundraising does is it empowers your fundraisers to reach completely new donors that they otherwise would not have and to achieve their fundraising goals. So Facebook fundraising, super powerful. If you want to learn more, you can come to my session tomorrow to learn about the Facebook fundraising integration.
So I'm excited to actually be having the symposium now because this is one of my favorite projects that we do. And it's really cool to be here and have people to actually talk about it with once it comes out. This is, the first thing that everyone wants to know is the industry growing? And this is kind of our blank line answer. we saw about a 1% growth over the year. And like Allison said, that's looking only at races that were using our platform in 2018 and 2019. So it's a slight improvement from last year, where we had a 0.1% decline. But I think that the general takeaway is that the market is not necessarily tanking the way that I think it is often talked about, but it is very flat and stagnant. And if you take into account a lot of the competition in the marketplace, it probably feels like a very tough market to be in right now. That said, it's better to have 1% growth than to actually see a 6 or 7% decline. Repeat participants, I like this number because it's actually been really steady across every year we've done this report. We see about 18% of participants returning from one year to the next to the same race. That's actually also really steady from distance to distance. It's basically between 18 and 20% for all of the shorter distances, and then you get to like 13, 14% once you hit a marathon or an ultra. The real number might be ever so slightly higher because this could lose a few people who change their email and their name and can't be tracked, but it's not that far off, and I think it's a little bit lower than people tend to assume. I think it really drives home how much year after year you have to continue to market and continue to reach out to new communities, because no matter how many people you have that love your race and are loyal, everyone's just not doing the same events over each year. Pricing is pretty straightforward. We've seen an increase in prices on the shorter end of distances and a decrease on longer distances. I think that's pretty easy to understand. With shorter distances, I know permitting costs have been going up kind of nationally for a long time, making those a little bit more expensive, as well as I think a lot of shorter races are looking for ways to set themselves apart, and they're doing things like getting a nicer t-shirt, adding a post-race party, trying to find new ways to attract people, and those have costs, so it's driving their costs up a little bit as well. On the longer distance, I think that ties into, we saw a decline in participation in those same distances, and what do you do when you're trying to attract people? Your prices may come down to try to get them in. Demographic trends, it's been, for quite a while, women have kind of dominated the endurance industry. That's still true. We still see 56.1% of participants as women, but that has been steadily declining every year. We started at about 61% the first year we reported this, and we have seen that evening out a little bit every year. I do think it's important to, when you're doing marketing, when you're doing sizing for swag, take everyone into account. There's a lot of both men and women in your events, so make sure that you're including both men and women in your marketing, in your sizing, that kind of thing, so you're appealing to everyone. Race churn, this is also one that is done with a smaller sample. It's actually a report that we have to do manually, so this is only looking at races that have more than 500 participants. With that, we saw 5.6% of the races that took place on our platform in 2018 did not occur at all in 2019. 2.8% of the races that were on our platform switched to another platform. So that 5.6 number is really kind of the number of races, the percent of races in the industry that are dying each year. It's pretty close to what we saw the first year we did this. We haven't had this report long enough for us to really see if there's a trend or a movement in more races not occurring or less, but that'll be interesting to watch. The other thing I would note is that in general, larger races tend to die less often than the smaller races. So it wouldn't be surprising to me if we were able to do this across 100, 200 person races, if we would see this actually go up. And I think that really explains a lot of the sense that the market is really tough, is that even if races are able to grow, it is really hard. There are races that are just folding because it's too hard to keep up. Promotion trends, just a quick look at some of the tools and what works well. Coupon usage has gone up every year we've done it, or every year we've done this report. It started at kind of 3.7%, we're up to 8%. And with that, we see the ROIs, the return on investment is dropping each year as well, which may indicate that people are kind of overusing coupons a little bit. So I tried to think about coupons with a couple of specific rules. One being, always set out your plan for coupons ahead of time. You want to know when you're going to offer them, have them strategically placed. Don't just kind of throw them out throughout the year where people are just waiting for the next one to come. Every coupon you have needs to have a time limit set on it. The point of using a coupon should be to get people to act right now. And if you don't have a time limit on it, you lose that effect. And so then you're just giving them a discount for no real reason. Referral rewards refunds. If you've ever been to a symposium or talked to anyone from RunSignup about promotion at all, they have 100% told you about referral rewards because this is one of our favorite things. It's super effective. It's a really good way to do marketing. The way that it works is when someone registers, everyone gets a referral code. They can share that. If people register using their referral code, then they can be credited back, and you can set a threshold of, if they bring in 3 or 5 or 6, whatever referrals, then they get an automatic refund on their end. And the reason this is so effective is that there are people who are really excited about this idea and really will do anything for it and will get you 6 people for your $120 refund. And that's a pretty good deal. On the other hand, there's going to be a whole lot more people who are like, yeah, I'll share my code. They'll get you 1 or 2 or 3 registrations, but you don't actually ever have to give them a refund anyways. And so that's why it ends up being so high that there are 13 registrations for every refund given. 7% of registration dollars came from refund rewards. We didn't run this on including swag, but I know that the last time that we were able to do that report, if you also offer swag as a higher level referral reward, that can get you up to about 12%. So if you're using both, that really can be very effective. Race Insights is our internal analytics engine. So it's kind of like our version of Google Analytics. And if you go to your dashboard, all of those graphs and charts and the kind of pretty things that you see, that's all coming from Race Insights. And so what this did is take everyone's Race Insights data and put it all together. I think the one thing that I want to note here is it's going to underreport Google and Facebook especially, because all of you who raised your hands that you have a non-RunSignup website, if you're driving traffic to that first, then that's getting credit for driving to your RunSignup site. So that technically is coming from Google, but it's showing on our end is coming from your race website because that's where they were last. To compare with that, our Google Analytics reported that 30% of our traffic came from organic search. So that shows it kind of starts to jump up, which really highlights the importance of having a good search engine optimization. If you don't have a RunSignup race website, which we have done a pretty good job of optimizing, then you really either should look into getting that audited or follow Bob's instructions and switch over. And actually, he didn't say this, but there is a demo room station set up with race websites. So if you do want to go just play with them, check out what some of them look like. There's someone there all day today and most of tomorrow. Registration trends. When do participants register? This has been pretty consistent year over year as well, but I think it's one of the best visual charts to really see the flow of when registrations come in. The 2 things that I would note are if you have a long distance race, you've really got to be up and running and aggressively promoting very early because you've got a lot of registrations who are coming in well before 120 days. And they're all looking for, the ability to plan their travel and their training. The other thing I would say is every distance has a spike on race week. So even if you have a race where you think, well, everyone's already registered, everyone registers early for this, pay attention to race week, keep race week open, and make that available because procrastinators come at all distances. Pricing strategies. This is registration because it's when people register, but it's also kind of a marketing stat. 27% of registrations come in within a 3-day period of registration closing or a price increase. And what that really highlights is the importance of deadlines and urgency. And I think Bob mentioned Tom Novellino's presentation later today on e-commerce. He's going to talk a little bit more about ways to create a sense of urgency. That really is the only way that you get people to take action. Mobile adoption, we're a little bit of a broken record on this one. We've been saying forever that mobiles is extremely important. That number just keeps going up and up and up. This year we had 70.3% of all page views were on either a mobile phone or a tablet. The vast majority of those on a phone, not a tablet. And the other thing to note there is that transactions are also increasing. So transactions used to be, I think when I first started looking at this, it was more like 30% of transactions would take place on mobile. People are getting more and more comfortable and confident using their phones to pay. And with that, that's gotten up to close to 50%. So really, you've got to make sure that everything you're doing, you check on mobile, check your website, check your registration flow, check every email you send, because that's how your runners are seeing your stuff. Race day trends. Race day registration. I actually hesitated on putting this one up because 2.1% of registrations on race day sounds kind of low. And if you think about it in terms of what that can mean for your race, I think that is partially because a lot of races don't do race day registration or don't do it well. But even if you are assuming that it's done well, if you have a 1,000-person race and you have $50 to charge, you're still talking about over $1,000 to your bottom line just by having it available on race day. The smoother and easier you can make that, the more likely people will do it. I know all of us would love for all of our other runners to be registered 3 weeks in advance, but it's not going to happen, and you're losing out if you aren't making it easy for them. Check-in app usage. If you're sitting in here and you have a name tag, you were checked in with the check-in app today. We've seen that starting to grow and gain adoption. It's really, really easy to use. Gotten up to about 17% of our runners are checked in with it. So I would recommend, again, either in the demo room or tomorrow morning at the run, check out the check-in app and just see how it's working. RaceJoy GPS tracking. The number of races that are using RaceJoy increased 108% this year. And that is not by accident. We started a new model at the beginning of last year where race day certified timers are able to offer race joy to their races directly, which increases its availability and really opens it up to a lot more races. What's really cool about that is we often think of race joy as being used with our largest events, and it can be. Our Philly Marathon this year was the biggest event, but it's not only for large events. Having timers have it available means that it can be used for any event size, and we think that'll really start to make it more of an expected regular part of race day. So if you're a race director in this room, talk to your timer and ask them if they can offer that. It can be a really nice add-on for your races. This is a new part of the report this year. Our race day team sent out a timer survey in December, which we sort of intended initially to be just for internal information about what the market was like. But we were able to share that through a couple of Facebook channels and our email. We got over 200 people to respond, which in a pretty small industry is a pretty nice picture. So we thought it was interesting enough to share. One of the things that really did confirm, and it's both from this information and some information I didn't put up there because it's too much to put up there, but there's about 60% of timers are working another part or full-time job. About 80% of them who responded have some sort of ownership stake. And you're looking at relatively small organizations in terms of the number of employees. So while they're working a pretty good significant amount of events, it's not large groups of people doing a lot of this work. So they really are organizations where everyone is very hands-on and very engaged and knows the technology personally. Business growth, this is fairly encouraging. 89.6% of businesses said they wanted to grow. 81.5% said they are growing. So there's obviously a few people in there who would really like to be expanding their business and are struggling to do so. But overall, people are finding, if they are reaching out and being aggressive, that they are able to grow their businesses to some degree. And part of that is the relationship that timers have with races. We refer to you as a group as timers, and I think a lot of you think of that as your primary role, but most of the timers are not just timers. They're doing a whole lot of other things, and races want them to do a whole lot of other things. 80.6% of timers say that the races view them as their technology expert, and 85.9% of timers are offering more than just timing. That included in the survey anything from marketing to race websites to course certification. So you can find things that really are your strengths. But races trust you. They want you to be able to help them. So share what you know, kind of expand your knowledge. And if you're a race director, you should be asking your timer what else they can do for you. And that is it. We've got about 13 minutes, and then you all are back in here for Brian Jenkins. It's everyone's favorite presentation. So take a break.
Thanks.